Okay, actually, we're back. In the time between when I shut off the stream and now, I saw that the collab interview went up. So I am going to be reading this on stream. Put on the Tides of Time Gone By screen soundtrack, and let's just take a look. One, this one. Here we go. And I'm going to use this translator, but the Google Translate official one might work better. Let's see. Okay. Why does the Collapse series believe in the potential of humanity? Interview with the scenario creators. Let's go with this one. Let's go with this translation. Why does the Honkai series believe in the potential of humanity? We asked the scenario writers of the Honkai series about how to write a story that continues to believe in the beauty of the world and the epic scale praise of humanity. To be honest, I thought Honkai series was quite shrouded in mystery. It's a title that spans a number of titles, including Honkai Gakuen, Honkai 3rd, and Honkai Star Rail. To be honest, I don't really know how it's all connected or the production team's trying to do with it. There's no doubt it's very popular. It's also shrouded in mystery. In the midst of all this, the long-awaited collaboration between Honkai 3 and Star Rail was announced. The two games were originally sister works, but now they're finally collaborating in earnest. Yeah, kind of one-sided. Well, I have mixed feelings about all of it, I'll just say, but not time for me to give my opinion yet. Taking advantage of this opportunity, we just decided to fly to Shanghai and talk to the scenario writers of Honkai series. Honest, might be the first interview in the world to ask so much about Honkai series itself. However's staff also said this is something that doesn't happen very often. We'll talk about the reasons and backgrounds to this collaboration, the cosmic scale theme of praise to humanity that the series upholds, what Honkai 3 and Star Rail are trying to portray, the story of when the series' familiar characters Kiana May and Bronya were created, and how Elysian Realm was so difficult that the 13 Flame Chasers even appeared in his dreams. We've heard plenty about the Honkai series. I know it's a bit self-serving to say this before we even begin, but I almost cried while writing this manuscript. A journey to protect the beauty of the world, a route to explore the stars. What kind of thoughts and feelings were behind these depictions? He spoke more candidly than I could have imagined. Captains and pioneers, please read on. Let's just compare real quick. Seems much the same. Take another drink. What's the reason behind the collaboration between Honkai 3 and Star Rail in the first place? Thank you for joining us today. First of all, I would like to ask you about the collaboration between Honkai 3 and Honkai Star Rail. What led to this collaboration? Honkai 3 and Star Rail are very connected to each other's worldviews, so from an early stage, we were thinking, can we connect the worldviews of both works? So we ourselves have been waiting for the right timing to start this collaboration. Laughs. In particular, Vita, who appears in Honkai 3, is a character who is well suited to the situation connecting the two worlds in terms of settings. With Vita now appearing, I thought it was a good opportunity for this collaboration. I bring this up because I saw some tweets, some people being like, oh my gosh, they mentioned Vita with like their connection to Star Rail, so obviously Vita's coming to Star Rail, and I don't think that's what's happening here. But whatever. So this collaboration is planning stages from a fairly early stage. So was this collaboration planning stage from the time of Star Rail was officially released about 2 years ago? After all, the two works are sister works, so we started planning them at an early stage. However, I started to develop concrete concepts after Vita was released. The idea for collaboration itself originated from Vita. There are two things we consider important. Two things we consider important when developing the Honkai series. The first is the concept of what should we do from now on. The second is the actual production stage of what should we do from now on. There's a clear distinction between concept and actual production. For example, in the first concept of what should we do from now on, we've thought of Welt as the basis for connecting the two worlds from a very early stage. In other words, from the concept, we assumed that there is a possibility that the two works would collaborate at some point, and we had Welt appear in Star Rail. We also think that players will enjoy Vita and Sparkle, who appear in this collab, as a way to demonstrate the good chemistry between the two works and to connect the two worlds. Vita, a character that appears in Honkai 3. Just introducing what kind of character she is would take up a huge amount of text, but to put it simply, she is an agent of cosmic scale entity with incredible abilities. In other words, she is a transcendental being who may travel back and forth between the worlds of 3 and Star Rail. See, okay, people posted this and they think that it's saying that Vita's coming, but that's not what it's saying. It's just saying who Vita is and that she is like the connection point, but we haven't really had anything showing that Vita was going to show up in Star Rail 1. 2, it's not her story to show up in. Not gonna lie. Sparkle works because Sparkle doesn't harm the narrative, you know? Whatever. For this collaboration, the story unfolds in a way that sees characters from Honkai 3 traveling through the world of a Honkai Star Rail. What was your idea behind writing this story? Key point for us was, how can we express this collab to the players? Of course, there are some who have only played one game. There are those who haven't played 3, and conversely, there are those who haven't played Star Rail. More, you know, I feel like more people have played Star Rail than 3, of course. And most 3 players have played Star Rail, I think. Our principle is not to put too much of a burden on such people and allow them to relax and enjoy the collab in 3. On top of that, it was important for players of Honkai 3 to feel the charm of the world of Star Rail. Even for those who have never played Star Rail, it will be fresh and fun. I hope that players who played both games at the same time will feel happy about the collaboration between the two favorite content. So, you were aiming to create something that fans of both games could enjoy. By the way, was it difficult to write the collaborative scenario, taking into account the settings and worldviews of both games? Honkai team, for the most part, we write this scenario for Honkai 3 from the perspective of how will the story unfold when the people of the solar system encounter an unknown universe. So, no matter how difficult the situation is, well, we can write it somehow. Everyone laughs. In this collaboration, Sparkle appeared as a playable character. Why did you choose Sparkle? In terms of characters from Honkai Star Rail, I think there were options that have trained crew members such as March 7th or Dan Heng appear. Sparkle is a prankster, isn't she? She also likes to appear out of nowhere. From that point of view, we thought she would be a suitable protagonist for this collaboration, as she is someone who could appear anywhere. Somehow, it wouldn't be strange for Sparkle to appear in the world of Honkai 3. That's exactly the thought process that they had when Official came in the collab. They're just like, well, Official's already a bit of a silly, otherworldly character, so that's why she was there. I also wanted players to feel surprised by the existence of such fireworks, while also giving the story a sense of rationality. In a sense, Honkai 3 is borrowing fireworks, we'll just say Sparkle, is borrowing Sparkle from Star Rail, and the image is that the Sparkle is separated from the main story of Star Rail for a long time. I see, so it was chosen based on the character of Sparkle. Also, the presence of Vita was a big factor in the appearance of Sparkle. Just as this collaboration is centered around Vita, the reason for this appearance of Sparkle is also related to Vita. First of all, Vita is a free. That's about her freedom. Vita is a free character. She has freedom. She exists in a gray area that is neither black or white. She is free from restrictions. In the words of Star Rail, she's a character that is suitable for, I'm assuming this is Evolution. Vita and Sparkle are similar in terms of personality and can also be said to be a good match. I wouldn't quite agree with them there. But, I mean, they're the writers, so, you know, it is what it is. So when these two meet, they get along well on the surface, but in reality, I think they may lose out to each other. I'm gonna need to see an alternate version of this. Oh, a group of bad friends who flirt. Let's see. When these two meet, they can get along quite well on the surface. I think there are times when they lose each other. And it's not lose out like one is like stronger than the other, but they're gonna have a falling out, I think. They're like friends who lose out by hanging out together, or a group of bad friends who, yeah, we'll go flirt, I guess. Anyway, that's how I created the story in which Vita accepts Sparkle's invitation to become a masked fool. I was also surprised that that appear as collaboration characters were designed to recreate the battle screen from Star Rail. How did you come up with the idea? First of all, Sparkle is popular. That's why I wanted to convey the appeal of Sparkle in terms of battles and characters to the users of Honkai 3. Sparkle has the title One Man, 1,000 Roles, and the Almighty Sparkle. And she can turn the impossible to the possible, so if the almighty Sparkle can do it, then it's all possible. As a result, we decided to recreate the screen of Honkai Star Rail in Honkai 3. I mean, I don't think it's anything too crazy, but it's fine. It's cool. Why do you continue to draw human hymns on a transcendent scale? All-purpose fireworks? From here on, I'd like to delve into the creation of scenarios for Honkai series. This is going to be a very direct question. But what do you value most when writing scenarios for Honkai series and not just 3 and Star Rail? First of all, the scenarios for Honkai are created with modern culture at the center. In other words, first I think about what problems are real people facing right now and what difficulties are they facing. I assign that problem to a character, and in the scenario, I express answers such as how the character thinks about the problem and what attempts they will make through the character. And through that scenario, I'm trying to make it possible for the ending to be a little more romantic, positive, and ideal than reality. I want players to empathize with the story. I've created the scenarios for the Honkai series based on the principle of an empathetic story. So I see. So you tried to incorporate real-world issues. And now Honkai 3 is a game that has been running for 8 years now. Our starting point is also quite simple. Through this long story, I want to share with the players the feeling that we have experienced many things together over a long period of time and have come to know each other. In other words, the characters in the game, the players, and us developers have all grown together. There would be no greater joy than if we could experience this wonderful journey together, and when you look back on it someday, you would think it was a beautiful memory and a worthwhile experience. Honkai series includes many titles such as Honkai Gakuen, Honkai 3, and Star Rail. Are there any themes that run through the entire series? Again, like before, it's about growth and relationships with the player. These two themes are expressed in various ways in each work. For example, in Honkai 3, there is a simple, beautiful kind wish. Fight for all that's beautiful in the world, I'm assuming. Stand up and protect the beautiful world. Says it kind of the same in both. In Honkai 3, there's a declaration. Honkai Star Rail, I'm assuming. In Star Rail, there's a declaration that foreshadows growth in a journey. May this journey one day lead to the star cluster. I think it's like, may this journey lead us Starward. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I think that the Honkai 3 theme is a lot stronger than the Star Rail one. I mean, I'm biased, so sorry if you're watching this as a Star Rail player, but like, fight for all that's beautiful in the world, which is like very personal, very like active, and then this one is the wish. May this journey lead us starward. It's just like, let's go exploring. You know, one is like fight for things we care about, and one is like, let's go look around. I was like, I mean, I don't think that Star Rail needs to have the same theme. It's just, I think that one is more emotionally compelling than another one. In both works, the two themes are incorporated this way. And in China, there's a term called Renwen Guanhui. I don't know. Humanistic care. Literally humanistic care. Which means an attitude of empathy and kindness, paying attention to the needs and circumstances of others. This humanistic care is the basis for the development and progress of human society. It's also a way of thinking for building a harmonious society. Through these themes, I continue to challenge myself to depict the development and endeavors of humanity. Are you trying to depict a hymn to humanity on a very grand scale? A human anthem on a very grand scale? In a sense, yes. In a sense, it could be said to be the beauty of humanity. The beauty of humanity is empathy and kindness, I guess is what they're trying to say. These themes are very easy, simple, and down to earth. But I also think they are positive and beautiful. That's why I believe they are worth celebrating and depicting for a long time. I felt this even when I was playing the game, but it seems that praise of humanity was important within the series. So, do you believe in the potential of humanity in the team? Why do you believe in the potential of humanity? Well, the answer is a bit long. First of all, Hoyoverse encourages us to continue to pursue our ideals. And for us, the ideal is people who do good things for others are rewarded, or doing good for someone. The golden rule, basically. However, in this day and age, with the internet and globalization, everyone faces anxiety and confusion. We are all forced to face some kind of stress or suffering in life. However, even in the midst of such suffering, I want you to know that there is always a small happiness that will be there for you. In times like these, we believe that someone must take on the role of letting people know about these small joys and the beauty of the world. It is why we are truly honored to have players moved by the story and feel courage and warmth in their hearts. Whether it's Honkai 3 or the upcoming Star Rail... how do they say this? We want to convey through the story is always... What we want to convey through the story is always consistent. We want to continue to play this role in the future, and at the same time, we believe it's a role worth continuing to play. And we think that reading history is a lot like reading a story. There have been people throughout history who have suffered much more than we do today, but they managed to overcome past hardships and disasters and continue to build civilization to this day. A great miracle. It is because of the goodness of humanity that I felt when reading about that history that I could continue to believe in the beauty of life and continue to have faith in humanity. The said can be same about stories as creative works. What is common in both coming into contact with stories and creating them is that they move you. The reason we write stories is because we want to convey the light of human civilization to as many people as possible. Elysian Realm was so difficult that the 13 Flame Chasers appeared in my dreams. Next, please tell us what you valued when creating the scenario for Honkai 3. What did you keep in mind when creating the story for Honkai 3, which has a huge range of characters and scenarios? First of all, it's important to have both story and character. The two can't be separated. Basically, we try to convey the appeal of the characters throughout the story. One thing I try to keep in mind is not to make the characters do anything. Don't force the characters to act. In other words, for the sake of the storyline, you avoid making the characters do things that they wouldn't normally do. That's right. Each character is truly a flesh and blood, a real person. That's why we always value what kind of will the character has in the story, what choices they make, and what they do according to the flow of the story. We must not change the character's will without thinking. So the most important thing is to follow the will of the characters. I create scenarios that follow the will of characters based on my love for them. As I mentioned earlier, I think Honkai 3 is a series that has been running for a very long time. What was the most difficult part of creating the scenario for Honkai Impact 3? That's true. As expected, there are always problems that arise during production. As I said earlier, as players and developers have grown together, players' understanding of games and their aesthetic sense have improved. That's why we, the developers, have been challenging ourselves for a long time to think about how we can give players new experiences, how we can express better games. It's quite difficult to create something new like that, but it's also fun to create. As a creator, I would be very happy if players could enjoy these new elements. Speaking of Honkai 3, is Elysian Realm an example of that challenge? To be honest, when we first started developing Elysian Realm, we were worried that the story development and gameplay were completely new, and it might be too new for people to accept. For example, I was quite worried about whether players would accept the setting of the 13 Flame Chasers represented by Elysia. But before the implementation of the Elysian Realm, characters like Kiana, who had appeared from the beginning, were popular, so I wondered whether users would accept the sudden appearance of several new characters. Among them, the first 8 heroes who appeared, for example, Kevin and Sakura, appeared to some extent from the beginning of the game. There was also Sue, who appeared in manga and other content. In other words, by having the 13 Flame Chasers appear before the Elysian Realm, scenarios are constructed in a way that will allow players to accept them to at least some extent. And as you all played Elysian Realm, you all enjoyed it and recognized our work. I was really relieved. It was only because of the love of the players we were able to continue the story of Elysian Realm. I am very, very grateful. Elysian Realm, a content that appears in Honkai 3. It is a roguelike type of content that unravels the story of the 13 Flame Chasers who were active in the previous era long ago. It is a particularly popular content within Honkai 3, including the vastness of the setting and the exploits of the fascinating characters. So, for many of the people in the scenario team, the 13 Flame Chasers appeared in their dreams. What's more, every night in their dreams, the 13 Flame Chasers would fight. When they woke up, they would write a story about the 13 Flame Chasers at the development site. When they got home and went to sleep, they would dream about the 13 Flame Chasers again. This situation continued for 3 months. One laughs. So far, we've been mainly talking about Honkai 3, but I'd like to hear what you consider important when writing scenario for Honkai Star Rail, probably. Yeah. Specifically, how do you differentiate the scenarios for Honkai 3 and Honkai Star Rail? The worldview of the two works are inherited to an extent. However, in the case of Honkai Star Rail, we are depicting a journey set in the vast universe. In that context, the most important thing is, can we express something new in the journey? For example, when a high school student enters the gates of a university for the first time, when they become a member of society for the first time, when they move to a completely new city, they will encounter something completely new in all of these experiences. What they see there will be completely different from what they imagined before actually visiting, and it will expand the boundaries of your imagination. The feeling is also the basis for the format of this work, which is to ride the interstellar train and pass the next station. Major theme of development was also developed from this. That newness and fresh surprise is not only shown in the IP and the scenario, but also in many other aspects such as the art and game design. So, the overall newness of Penacony is based in large part on this idea. Okay. With this idea as the foundation, we are constantly thinking about how we can exceed players' expectations and provide new challenges with Honkai Star Rail. The future of this adventure is full of unknown possibilities. In the Honkai series, there are many spectacular settings, such as leaders, I'm assuming this is Hershers, lawmen, Ritsha, and eons. What do you keep in mind when creating the key settings in these works? Basically, we're conscious of whether the setting is concise and easy to understand. In particular, the more important the setting is, the more it acts as a kind of ruler in the worldview. Let me see a different translation of this. Such as Hershers and eons. The more important the setting, the more it plays the role of a kind of... whether the setting is concise and easy to understand. We would like to keep this ease of understanding in mind during development and make sure that it is communicated clearly to players as well. In addition, we also place importance on the extensibility of the settings. What does that mean? I couldn't tell you. For example, important settings such as Hershers and eons will always appear in later stories and will be supplemented. That's why if the setting doesn't have the flexibility to expand, the possibility for developing the worldview and story will be narrowed. That's why I think flexibility of setting is necessary. A scalable setting. I guess that's what... Alright, page 2. Hi, ad. Oh, where's my translate button? Hello? Translate. There we go. The story of when the usual three were created. Kiana, Mei, and Bronya. From here on, I'd like to ask you about the characters Honkai series. Within the series, there are parallel isotopes that appear across each work, such as Raiden Mei, Bronya, which exists like a star system. Well, why does this variant parallel isotope system exist in the first place? Let's see what they call it. Same thing, parallel isotopes. We've been thinking about this for a long time. In other words, from the beginning of the series launch, we envisioned the Honkai series as a major IP. We also decided that these IP would be connected across works. The most appropriate way to express the connection in the series was parallel isotopes. There are two reasons for this. The first is that the work's relative independence can be maintained through the use of isotopic characters. For example, even if a character appears as Raiden Mei in Honkai 3, she appears as Acheron in Honkai Star Rail, there's a clear difference between the two works. Secondly, through the isotope system, we can show core users of the IP that one character contains different possibilities in each world. Even though the character is the same Mei, she lives a completely different life in 3rd and Star Rail. Exactly. Even if it's the same character, if they make a different choice, they might have a completely different life. In our own lives, if we make a completely different choice at certain points in the past, we might become a completely different person. I thought that to depict such a possibility, I would use isotopes rather than a single character. Translated the same way. By the way, do you think that a development team has a special attachment to characters such as Mei and Bronya? I can feel your love for them no matter what work you're looking at. Let me be the first to answer that question. Of course, we as creators have a deep affection for all the characters we've created. For example, May and Bronny are characters that we've known for a long time, so we have a deep understanding about them. That's why we were able to explore more aspects of them and create more isotopes. I mean, like, I guess you can say, like, Akron is May, but if she lost everything, but she still, like, kept her sense of, justice, I suppose. If you find that interesting, good on ya. Veronia Star Rail is like the difference. There isn't really like difference in choice. It's just like difference in upbringing, right? And I have to say, I didn't find Akron or Bronya particularly integral to their arcs. I mean, I guess Bronya is pretty integral to her arc, but she's like somewhat well, she has like a different vibe completely from her original version. Not a bad thing. Okay, let's see here. Even within the series, Kiana, May, and Bronya are the three central characters. Could you tell us about when these three characters were first created? Here's another thing, is that like Star Rail continues to separate, or like these other games are continue to separate them as like a trio. It's like their compelling values are because of their relationship, and like taking them away from each other and like separating them out into like little groups, like I don't know. I guess it's fine. If you like it, you like it. You tell us when Kiana, May, and Bronya were first created. As expected, those three were created quite early on. That is around the time of Honkai Gakuen. At that time, the series was still quite compact. And what was important in creating these three characters was that they were all young girls who were still growing. Three characters are still growing and full of potential. Therefore, there are many possibilities for the future, and they will experience various things together with the player. They can achieve gradual growth. It was because we created them in this way that we were able to realize the potential characters as isotopes in Honkai 3 and Star Rail. Because it is a long-run series, we place great importance in preserving the blankness and purity of the characters, especially those who are essential to the series. While this is true, like, most of the variants who have appeared in Star Rail, or just most characters appear in Star Rail in general, like, come as like ready packaged like characters who already have their backstory behind them. And I mean, I don't know, I feel like we've yet to see too much big shift in like personality or maturity of the characters. Like I can only say like the only character I feel like in Star Rail who has like significantly grown is like Yanqing. And like the only thing that really changed for Yanqing is that I guess people didn't like him before, people like him now, but otherwise actually no, he's the same person as he was. It's just like the respect levels changed. But otherwise most characters come ready, packaged, ready to go, and then like once their time is up, that's their time. And like in Penacony, all the characters who came there, they were like searching for something to change them, but I don't think any of them really significantly changed as people through the Penacony arc, except for like Sunday. Everybody else like kept the same ideals coming in as they did leaving, so like none of that really changed. I don't know. I'm just inserting my opinion now. Let's see. Because you're expecting it to last and to continue for a long time, you value the potential of the characters. Incidentally, even though May is in the same series, she has different settings and visuals from Honkai 3 and Star Rail. How did you think about drawing her differently in each work? When we compare the character to the original work, we try to think about what new aspects there are in the new work. In order to match the space setting of Honkai Star Rail, Akron incorporates a large amount of black hole elements into her character design. When trying to differentiate within a series like this, we first think about what new possibilities are there in this character's life. Okay, I'm gonna kind of rant now on my thoughts on Akron as a character. So Akron, in a way, basically represents the May of the Hersher of Thunder era, like the edgy May. And I know people loved Hersha of Thunder May for like how she just suddenly gained like this huge amount of depth and like she was really, I don't know. People like the edgy version of her rather than the happy version of her. And so Acheron is basically an evolution of that concept. And they like applied it into the Star Rail setting by basically putting her past all of the growth that she had and then taking that away from her and turning her back into like an emo character, which is like, to me, not really all that interesting. I personally don't find that Acheron's concept all that interesting. Like, the concept is May, but she lost everything. Okay? Like, at least Bronya has a different, like, starting point. So Bronya's Star Rail has a completely different, like, life backstory. You know, she, like, grew up in a happy home. She was adopted from the orphanage, but she grew up, like, closer to a mother, and she grew up having and not being without, you know, and she's prim and proper versus like, you know, a emotionless assassin, right? Like that's like, it's like different from the outset. But Acheron for the most part is just May, but with a sense of loss. Like otherwise, like as far as we can tell, like she's supposed to basically just be the same character, which I just find like, I don't know, a little bit deflating, because the reason why I like May in Honkai 3 and like her journey is that she goes through everything and then she comes out of it like internalizing all the lessons she learned and wanting to give it back, you know, and she grew from her young, immature state to like, you know, becoming a teacher. She became a teacher. She inherited the will of Himiko and the will of the Flame Chasers. But Acheron, on the other hand, is a loner. She's alone. And it's like, I don't find it interesting because this is already an aspect of May that we already encountered. This is like already a May that we spent some time with. So you're basically just getting that back. But like the process for getting there isn't really any... It doesn't really feel any different from what it was before, so I don't know. What new possibilities? Like, what is the possibility for Acheron? What's her new possibility? It's not like the new possibility is that she's back to being a loner again. I don't know. It's just my salt a little bit. And I just like again, from the outset, a lot of the Honkai 3 stuff in Star Rail feels like pandering fan service. I'm not gonna lie. It 100% feels like it's just trying to take advantage of my past feelings rather than like having something meaningfully additional to say. But yeah, ranting. Okay, continue. If the isotopes are different, the background of the world will also change, but the core of the character, the heart at the deepest level, is the same. Okay, so this is something that has been consistent, I guess, is that Acheron is fundamentally still May at heart, just like Bronya is still fundamentally Bronya at heart. You know, they have the same good soul, good, like, desire to do good things. And I mean, that's just because they're, you know, hero characters, right? But I think it'd be more interesting to see the characters completely flipped. Like, the thing is, like, in the Captain verse, we saw, like, a complete flipping of the characters. I thought there were really interesting variants there. Because, like, for example, in the Sakura Samsara, or not Sakura Samsara, in, Sakura... I forget what it's called. In the Kasumi event, where Yai Kasumi was there, and she was meeting with the Castellan Colin, where it's like Colin was like in a different situation. It was like flipped. So Colin was suddenly the auto type character, the villain who was like couldn't get over her sense of loss. Like, I thought that was interesting. It was like a cool reversal of like the roles. But as it has stood so far, a lot of these characters in Star Rail are either just like taking a character from the state where they already were, or just not really using that character's strengths at all. Like, what does Linkshot add to an understanding of Danchu, Nuwa? Like, Linkshot isn't really like Nuwa at all. Whatever. Once the story is completely over, we'd be happy if players still felt that it was essentially the same being. You made it so that people could feel that even though the world has changed, the roots have not. What's the most difficult character to create so far? Sorry, I was just checking Discord real quick. In the series, there are characters with extensive settings and backstories, such as Alicia. I'm going to... let's see. I'm going to ask frankly, but I'd like to hear if there's a character that's most difficult to create so far. The most difficult character to create is the character I'm trying to create now. When creating a character, there's a lot of uncertainty. So I'm worried about whether the players will accept this character, whether they'll be satisfied with it. So in terms of actual work, the character I'm creating now is the most difficult. And looking as past characters as an example, I wouldn't say that one character is the most difficult, but generally speaking, the more life experience a character has, the more complex their relationships are, and the more serious the problems they have to think about, the more difficult they tend to be to portray. The character's experiences and circumstances are often very different from those of ordinary people. Because when it comes to writing a scenario, we have to bring them back to their ordinary side in many scenes. Expressing that subtle difference is very difficult, so we have to write every word carefully. For example, with Kevin lines, we have to always think, does it carry enough weight? Similarly, with Fu Hua, everything she does must be consistent with her long experience as a protector. Give me a rundown, but an EP way? Is that what you meant? An EP way, please? Well, I'm halfway through right now. They're basically just talking about in the first page, it was like the Honkai Star Rail and Honkai Impact setting are created because of a love of humanity. Like they want to express like the beauty of human civilization, and they explore that in the two ways of the games. Like one is the way they express it in Honkai Third is fight for all that's beautiful in the world, and the way they express it in Star Rail is may this journey lead us starward. So, and that like stems from they talked about like a love and kindness for other people are like the fundamental themes of the Honkai series, is basically what they say. And then the second page is mostly about character variants and what they think about when they're creating them. Okay, let's see. In Honkai Star Rail, there are examples like Acheron, where every word needs to be expressed with sufficient gentleness, and like it says Kagemoto. I don't know what that means. Like Acheron. Maybe that's Jinyuan? Okay. Oh yeah, so Acheron, every word needs to be expressed with gentleness, and like Jinyuan, where every line needs to feel meticulously calculated. Now, these characters are examples of the way that every character's dialogue has to be carefully considered and rewritten. However, rather than saying they're the most difficult characters, it might be more accurate to say that they are the most difficult thing. Oh my gosh, we already got to the end of this soundtrack. I guess we'll play some Robin. Actually, no, this has voices. Back up. New soundtrack. We gotta find a new soundtrack. Astral Theater Volume 2? Wow, they already released the Slumber Nana song? Let's just play another Honkai Impact soundtrack. There we go. Let's see what this says, actually. I have a good feeling of about what they say, but let's just make sure that I'm getting the right lines. So Acheron here is saying, until we meet again in the sun, it thrives at the edge of the void. And then Kevin and Sue are saying, here we go again, Kevin, that's how you've always been. Okay. It's difficult to draw characters who have specialized knowledge. For example, Sue from Honkai 3rd is an easy to understand example. When writing Sue, we had a dictionary of technical terms and studied while writing the lines ourselves. We need lines that are appropriate for that level of expertise, so we, the producers, also take classes while drawing the characters. This was very difficult. Indeed, Sue is a character that requires specialized knowledge. By the way, while you were writing the character, we need lines that are appropriate for the level of expertise, so we, the producers, also take classes while drawing the characters. This was very difficult. Indeed, Sue is a character that requires specialized knowledge. By the way, while you're writing the character, was there a moment when you felt a sense of accomplishment and thought this is a really good character? Rather than a specific character, I often feel a sense of accomplishment when I'm writing the story and think, this is a good story. And at that moment, I feel like this story is complete. For example, when I was making Eternal Fire, this is probably a chapter 25 arc on something Flames. And at least in Realm, the members of the production team were very moved when I showed them the scripts. They were excited to make the scripts into a reality. That was a wonderful experience for me as a writer. And we in the scenario team think of ourselves as recorders of the story rather than creators of the story. In other words, rather than thinking of ourselves as creating the story, we think of ourselves as simply recording the tales woven by each character. That's why I find it most enjoyable when a character like that tells us a story. This is going off topic a bit, but I feel that in Honkai 3 and Star Rail, both male and female characters are portrayed as attractive. How do you portray the attractiveness of male and female characters? Actually, we haven't really differentiated the portrayal of characters based on gender. Rather, I place importance on whether the character is sticking to their own will, whether they are doing what they want to do for the character without forgetting their original intentions, and so on. However, in the case of Honkai 3rd, the theme is girls' growth, so the story focuses on the active roles of women. In that sense, we placed importance on depicting how they have grown in the story. Conversely, many of the male characters in Honkai 3rd have already grown. Indeed, many of the male characters in Honkai 3 appear as adults from the start. That's true. Whilst growth is fully depicted in the main story as well. In other words, I believe that gender is merely one of the core components that make up a character's life. The setting for the entire Honkai series actually started being created earlier than anyone imagined. From here on, I would like to talk about the development background of Honkai series. First of all, before the release of Star Rail, were the scenario team members starting up the planning for Star Rail while also working on the climax of the first part of Honkai 3rd. Actually, we started creating the settings for not only Star Rail, that is long before the release. As we take this time, we're slowly sorting out the settings for the entire series. Put it into perspective, it's like slowly weaving a web that connects 3rd and Star Rail. So the overall concept for the series is done at a higher level in the production of each project. In fact, the scenario production team for the Honkai series is very large, which is very different from the image you might have of a few main writers. Conversely, could you tell us about the situation of the development team when you started making Honkai 3rd? I imagine the company probably wasn't as big as it is now. Sorry. That's something on my mind all of a sudden. But at that time, the number of people on the team was small to begin with. I don't think it was a very formal game production. For example, when we were creating the vision log for Honkai 3, there were times when the scenario writer was directly creating the engine and UI. That's quite an amazing time. Actually, the writers team at the time had a fairly wide range of talent. That is, there were people who had skills in areas other than scenario writing. It may have been because we had such a diverse range of writers that we were able to create the game in that way. At that time, the writer seats were quite close to each other, so rather than meeting in a conference room, if any ideas came to mind, we would voice them directly on the spot. With the release of several hit titles, I think Hoyoverse has grown as a company since we started making Honkai 3. In that context, is there anything you feel has changed recently in a good way? Obvious change is that there is now more people. As a result, more people are coming up with ideas, and I think we can get more inspiration by exchanging different ideas. When we create a scenario, by adding more people, we can create a story with a more complex structure. As the team grows, the quality of their work also improves. When we face some problems, many people come up with solutions. Also, as the team has grown, many new members have joined. Among them, more and more young people are joining. It feels like the whole scenario team has become younger. What will be the trends this year? What will be the trends next year? The young members are coming up with new ideas, and that is helping energize the team. In addition, many of the members of the scenario team have studied different fields, so it feels like we were able to complement each other's knowledge. You're seeing more young people join the team. By the way, how many people are there on the scenario team now? That's a secret. The reason is that the structure and framework within the company is quite complicated. It is difficult to simply categorize it as a scenario. In terms of people in charge of IP content, there are a few dozen people. Few dozen. Actually quite a lot. Can I expect more priority of the present? Let's see how this other transaction does it. I have two different translators just to see if I can pick up on a little bit more nuance if things are weird. Can we expect more from the current... I'm assuming the collab. I heard before that this collab between Third and Star Rail was a small attempt at the future of the Honkai series. What does small attempt mean? This time, the collaboration is centered around Honkai Third. But in the future, we'd like to develop a larger story that crosses over each other's worldviews. In other words, is it possible to achieve a more authentic world fusion? However, there are main stories for both titles, and we are still exploring how to create a huge story that spans the series. This collaboration is the first step in that challenge, and we would like to gather feedback from players. Would you like to create a larger story that involves the whole entire series, but try something a little smaller this time? Smaller? What do they mean by that? We'd like to gather feedback from players. I see. We'll see what kind of feedback comes from this. That's exactly it. Finally, if there's anything you would like to try in the future with the Honkai series, please let us know. Whether it will come to fruition or not, we are curious about the content you would like to try in your mind. It's a bit abstract, but what I want to do is something that is beyond our imagination now. That's one of the Hoyoverse taglines. In order to make the players enjoy the game, I want to deliver something that exceeds their imagination. To give one example, Honkai 3rd includes an anime called Golden Courtyard. The anime is an extension of character portrayal that already exists and depicts what kind of life the character would lead if they were living in reality. I would like to depict such possibilities of what if on another occasion. However, whether or not we can actually achieve this will depend on the work we do from now on. I'd love Golden Courtyard, so I'd love to see it performed. We'll do our best. I'm looking forward to the sequel of Golden Courtyard. No, not that. Not. Yeah, no sequel. Frankly, I was also surprised that they were trying to tell the story of the entire Honkai series. So does that mean that Honkai 3 and Star will be more and more connected from now on? I mean, the word Aeon was mentioned, though. Anyway, I'm looking forward to see what happens next. From now on, I'll talk about what I thought about 3 and Star Rail. What I felt playing both games was that these are games that are filled with incredibly pure wishes. The themes they discuss, the stories they depict, the character growth, everything is pure, and that's why they look so beautiful. I think that when you create something, you want to twist it even more. A story that continues to naively believe in the beauty of humanity and the beauty of the world. The more you get into creative works, the higher the hurdle becomes. That's how I feel. But it is a story about a person who almost naively believes in the values of people. Yet it is a story about a person who almost naively believes in the beauty of the world. I thought that was the collapse, the Honkai series. This purity can only be created if it was based on a terrifyingly clear and simple wish. I was extremely happy to hear that directly. These works were truly filled with pure and innocent wishes. And even in the midst of suffering, I want to know that there is always a small happiness that is there for you. Who says this? I can't seem to get a reference for it. I'm going to cry. You guys really believed... You all seriously believe that stories that will save the world when you made this show. It's so pure, but I love that about it. That's why I'm following it. And right now, I think these guys are saving the world with games. I didn't realize it, but it isn't about to collect tech otaku to save the world. The company motto is being put into practice. May civilization continue like the stars, may the world shine like gold. With this wish in mind, I plan to watch the upcoming Honkai series. Yay! We did it. We read the whole thing. I can't really say I got any insights in this that I didn't already know. But basically, just that, Honkai Impact and Honkai Star Rail are supposedly carrying on, this appreciation for humanity and humanity's struggles. And that Honkai Impact has been with them for a long time and that they've grown with it. I think these are all self-explanatory things, but interviewers seem to enjoy it. The purity of their games with incredibly pure wishes and naivete, I suppose. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in for this last part of stream. We'll be back again sometime soonish.